Hey, hi, how you going? It's your mate Valstride, and today we're going to check out all the best methods for farming gold. Let's go. The first method we're going to try is using the new gold coin assembly line, which was introduced with the Feybreak update. Now, the way we're going to test this is to let this entire base run for an hour, and then we'll see how much gold we get at the end. The whole base has been set up just for the purpose of producing gold, and all I'm going to be doing as the player is loading in more production as required, such as ingots and such as gold, because that's the only thing you can't automate. Everything else is going to be left to the pals, including the transporting, with the exception of the gold, which I will pick off the assembly line at the end. Now, we've started with no resources on hand, none in base and none in the guild chest. However, you will have noticed that I've preloaded 2 sets of ingots and I've preloaded 1 set of gold. And the reason for that is I want to measure the average hour of production, not the very first hour, because I don't want any of my pals to start the timer with no work to do. Otherwise, you can imagine there'd be a lag time where I have to mine some ore and then we have to produce some ingots, and only then can we start producing gold. But that's not going to be reflective of your average hour of gold production. So with all of that in mind, let's check out the pal distribution. So the distribution I've opted for looks like this. As you can see, we've got 10 astagons. You essentially want as many of these as you can get because they're the bottleneck for the entire process. No matter how fast everyone else does their job, you're always kind of just waiting for more ore to come through to keep going. And then I've got 1 Yormantide Ignis, who's more than enough to do all the production of the Ignits. I've got 1 Orzerk, who's more than enough to power everything on his own, including 6 oil extractors. Now, I've opted to go for 2 Noclums because I found this just smoothed out the transporting a little bit. When I only had 1, he kind of just got tunnel visioned into just 1 node, and he would be like, ooh, there's some ore there, better move it. Ooh, there's some more ore there, better move it. And he didn't spread the workload around and move Ignits and stuff smoothly, so 2 helped with that a lot. And then I've just got 1 Anubis, which is more than enough to get all the crafting done. The build we've opted for on every single pal in this base is Remarkable Craftsmanship, Workslave, Artisan, and Serious. That's essentially just to maximize the work speed of every single pal. And then, as you can see, on every pal, I have them condensed up to 4 stars, and I've got that boost into work speed through the pal souls. And lastly, we just need to go over the work preferences real quick. So I have handiwork turned off for all the astagons so that they focus only on mining and don't get distracted trying to produce any gold. And then Yormantide's just doing kindling. Orzerk is focusing on electricity production and then doing a little bit of transporting in his downtime. We have all of this turned off for the Noclum so that they only focus on transporting. And then Anubis is doing a little bit of everything, but he will primarily focus on handiwork. Now, normally I play with 25 pals in base, but for the sake of benchmarking this test, I've just gone with the default 15. And then the last thing we need to cover is the work mode, and I'm benchmarking this on normal work. Now, if you feel like it, you can push this up to hard work or super hard work, but sanity does drain really quick with the gold production, so, play with that one cautiously. So here we have it, time is up and the results are in. For our efforts, we've netted 8,126,000 gold. Not a bad haul, but let's see how this compares to the other options. The second method we're going to look at is the production and sale of legendary spheres, which sell for a little over 6k each. Now, the end-to-end production of these is a little more complicated because there's more requisite materials that go into it, but ultimately the process we're going to use to test it is the same. We've got this entire base set up for the purpose of producing the spheres and mining the requisite materials. I've gone ahead and preloaded some of the production lines so that none of the pals have nothing to do at the start, there's no initial lag time, and I've gone ahead and removed every material from base with the exception of bone and pal fluid, which are going to be used to produce the cement. Now, the reason I've left these is because I'm going to work from the assumption that you're always using the profits you make from the spheres to buy more of this material and enough to keep going. That's just because it's the most efficient way to do it, but I will be careful and ensure I account for these costs when I look at the profits we make at the end. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the pal distribution because it does look a little bit different to what our previous setup did because we need to mine some different materials and do a few different bits and pieces along the way. So the distribution for the second method looks like this. As you can see, we've reduced the astagon count down to 8, just because the bottlenecking on the ore isn't so bad. We've also increased the Noclum count up to 3, and that's because we're producing a larger variety of materials, so I found it was important to have more transporting to put everything away on time. And then we've also had to include a Bestigor this time for its cooling, because we need to use the crusher to produce the palladium. Now then we've got 1 Anubis as same as last time. We've also got a Yormantide Ignis and we've got 1 Orzerk. So here we have it. We've managed to produce 1,911 spheres, which are going to sell for total profits of 9,049,000 gold, which is an 11% increase on our previous method. We just have to be careful to ensure that we have 5 pals in party with the noble and fine fur passives when we do the selling of the spheres so that we get the maximum profit. But with all that in mind, let's check out the next method. The third method we're going to try is the production and sale of nails, which sell for about 28 gold each. Now I'm not going to go through all the testing methodology for this one because we're just going to replicate the conditions from the first test, because like gold, nails only require ingots to produce. So I'm just going to use the same base setup, the same pale distribution, and we'll give it a shot, and at the end we'll see how much gold we get. So here we have it. We've managed to produce roughly 176,000 nails, which is going to equate to about 4.9 million gold per hour. So not as good as the other methods, but the nice thing about this one at least is it is a good beginner method potentially, because you can unlock the nails as early as level 10, whereas something like the gold coin assembly line isn't going to come along until level 49. And the last method I want to talk about is just farming Memogs up and down this lava strip around coordinates 353, -53. So when you're doing this method, you want to set your settings such that you get 3 times spawn rates and 3 times pal drop rates. And that's going to mean you get about 6.5k per Memog, which you can then double because you can disassemble them on the conveyor belt later. So you get about 13k per Memog in total. And over the hour, I captured 198 Memogs, which led to about 2.6 million gold. So it is the worst on this list, but you do get other perks along the way because you're getting dog coin at the same time, as well as these training manuals. So I definitely wouldn't recommend this as a primary method of getting gold, but if you're after the dog coin anyway, it is still good value for money. And that's everything we're going to talk about today. As you can see, selling legendary spheres is still the most gold per hour, but I'm personally going to be sticking with the gold coin assembly system just because it feels a little less complicated and I don't have to micromanage so many different materials and resources. If you are a newer player and you're just looking to get a little bit of gold to get your journey started, then selling nails might still be viable for you. And lastly, if you are just looking for a supplementary method, then Memog farm might be the way to go, especially if you're just going to be out there farming that dog coin anyway. We'll leave it there for today. If you enjoyed this and you found it helpful, let me know by smashing the like button. And if you've got any other tips and tricks that you'd like to add to this, let me know about them in the comments down below. Other than that, I hope you enjoy your day and I'll see you next time.